Good people, what is going on? Another episode of the All Go Podcast. I'm your host Desmond. Thank you for tuning in. I got my walleye hat, so a couple people have noticed that. But yeah, shout out to the Toledo Walleye. We went to a couple games last year with my family, and we enjoyed it. It was cool. It was good. So, want to talk about the Michigan job that is currently void. And it's interesting. So a lot of things are happening at the same time. One is we're still in bowl season and playoff season. So a lot of coaches are still, in their seasons. Really difficult to try to get an interview or gauge serious interest. I think there's been talks of, hey, we reached out to so-and-so's agent and all this other good stuff. But to me, what it seems like is candidates that were talked about. Let's put it that way. And when I say talked about, I'm like, fans, things like that, media. Candidates are dropping off the board. There was a lot of, Michigan fans. One of the first things that I heard when Sharon Moore was fired was from someone who covers Michigan. Was this is perfect timing? This timing couldn't be perfect because you're not really having to battle with any other, school, so on and so forth, which I always thought that was insane because some of the biggest names in the sport, you didn't get a chance to hire them or even interview them to see if they would be a good hire. Like, for example, Matt Campbell. You didn't even get a chance to talk to Matt Campbell. And I'm not saying that he's would be the best candidate or anything like that, home run hire, but I think he would be a really good candidate. And also with the timing, there's teams still playing. So the second thing I heard was we're going to get Kalen DeBoer. We're Michigan. We can pay whatever we want. We will get him. We'll get him. It's a better job, better fit, so on and so forth. And I've been pretty adamant that what, to me, in my eyes, moving from Alabama to Michigan, and now more of this was before, the playoff game, and if we would have lost to Oklahoma, that would be an admission that this environment is just too hot for me. I've got to go somewhere else. Because the whole point of him coming to Alabama was he knew this was the expectation. You think he was surprised coming to Tuscaloosa and being like, oh, wow, this fan base, they really want us to win at a high level. He knew that was the expectation. So to walk out of and this isn't just some irrational fan base and school. This is a school that is, football means a lot to them. It's important. They do what they need to do to make things happen, right? They're not any, by any stretch of one of the schools with the most amount of NIL money by any stretch, but they're like, yeah, they come to play. Let's put it that way. So seemingly Kalen DeBoer is gone. And to me, you can miss me with if Alabama loses to Indiana, who mind you is the number one team in the country, that all of a sudden Alabama fans are going to want Kalen DeBoer fired. I don't think I've never seen any Alabama fan say that they wanted Kalen DeBoer fired. I was someone who said, I want Ryan Grubb fired because I think he's a terrible OC. That is just me. Well, let's put it this way. He's not a terrible OC. It's just not a good fit for Alabama, I think, for Grubb and Alabama. But nonetheless. So it's not going to why would Kalen DeBoer leave Alabama when it's like, hey, I'm getting my guys in, right? We've been through a couple transfer portals where guys have had the chance to leave. They didn't. They stuck around. We got some talent. We just won a playoff game. We were just in the SEC championship game. I mean, and Michigan's not, it's not like there's some dumpster fire from an on the field aspect. They were 9-3, but you also didn't really beat anybody either. Like, you kind of have that Notre Dame issue with the scheduling. I mean, what was Michigan's best win this year? Was it USC that they beat or Washington? USC or Washington, one of the two. But you're squeaking by Purdue, and so it's not really. They've got some work to do, but heard that with DeBoer, and then next was Dillingham, and it sounded like Michigan fans, from what I have seen just on online and whatnot, the fan base was pretty split on Dillingham. Some wanted him, thought he'd be great. Others thought he'd be terrible. I'm not sure how you think Kenny Dillingham would be terrible at that job, but I digress. Then I've heard some rumors Brom extended, but sounds like that was not true. But there's also people all over the place on Brom. Like, no, I don't think he'd be a good hire, so on and so forth. But and what I think is culminating, and I'll talk about Biff Poggi here in a minute, is make no mistake, Michigan is a really good job. But as I mentioned on the channel, with the multiple scandals that have come about, we can the cheeseburger gate thing, and I get it, wasn't a big deal, but it did happen, and it only happened to you. You had Harbaugh was suspended for multiple games. You had now the mess with Sharon Moore. You had Matt Weiss. It's the amount of issues that you have at the school, specifically in that football program, is a problem, and I think is a detractor to the job. I'm not saying it's not a good job. I'm just saying it is a factor in weighing things out there. And then on top of it, you've got a coach who's currently on the staff, who is, as it stands today, the figurehead of Michigan football, standing at a podium saying that this has been what did he say? A dysfunctional organization for the past 5 years. Someone who literally, there's not anyone who would have more of a front seat to the dysfunction than someone who was working on the staff. So it's been dysfunctional for 5 years. Mind you, all of those years wasn't Sharon Moore as a head coach, but once again, I digress. And here's the thing. Michigan is for sure a top 10 job, but I think it's closer to 10 than it is 1. You do have unlimited resources. You've got a lot of resources. I've got that. That's cool. But that's not the only thing that matters. It's a huge deal, make no mistake. But I believe you have, an interim president right now. And not that too many people really care about the president, but nonetheless, it's still in flux. You've got an AD that some people think will be fired, some do not. Some people like him, some do not. And which even in college football, the way it stands now, like the head coach of a big time football program answers to nobody. But at the same time, you still don't want to work with someone that you don't see as worthy of the position. Like Kevin Warren, who was at, what was he at? The Big Ten. He worked in the Big Ten office. He's now works for the Chicago Bears, like the president or something like that. Like that guy, he's not looked upon in a favorable way. So I'm using that as an example. I don't care who you are as a head coach. You don't want to work if that someone like that was your athletic director. It's like, this dude's come on, like what are we doing here? So it just there's a lot that's in flux, and it has an impact one way or another. Now, who knows? They may hire Jeff Brom and he may go on to crush it and all that good stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, I think it leads you to believe that Michigan might be looking at themselves through maize and blue colored glasses, potentially. We'll see. But like I said, we're getting pretty close to the transfer portal window. Today is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to everybody. But next week is going to be, I think January 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, is when the portal opens. And right now you don't have a head coach, so you kind of got to get on it. But that is it for me. Appreciate it. Peace.